Okay, so we're here in Marvelous Designer. I'm going to revert that. Okay, so we're here in Marvelous Designer, and just a quick warning, if you watched any of my other videos where I used Marvelous Designer and explained how to use it, you can actually skip this video. This part is actually designed for people who never seen Marvelous Designer and it's their first time using it. So I don't want to frustrate you by going over the same thing that I taught you before in the last video. You know, some people are like, oh, I already know how to do that. Why are you showing me how to do this again? So this is what this is really about. So if you already know how to use Marvelous Designer and you used it before, you can actually skip this video and go right into the rigging video. So this video, again, is just for people who never used it, and I'm going to be using very basic terms so that you too, or they can become you and skip this video in future videos. Okay. So that's a minute of talk. Let's dive into our tutorial. When you open up Marvelous Designer 2, it should look kind of like this. You have the avatar and everything else. We need to set it up and bring in our our avatar 2.0 character. So what we're going to do is go over to the left hand side where it says File, and you're going to go File, Open, Avatar, and you're going to navigate to your project file. I'm already here, and it's going to say Dummy or whatever you named it, and you're just going to pick that. When you do that, it's going to say Load OBJ Avatar, and you're just going to check the M box right here. No need to touch any of this, or that all you need to do is just press M and then hit OK, and then your avatar will load in. So we need to get rid of this default garment here. We're just going to go back up to File and then press New. Unless you wanted to keep that and rig it for yourself later, then you could just, you know, play it along and fit it to your body. But we're not doing that. We're going to make stuff. So you can zoom in on your window, both windows, the 3D and the 2D window, by scrolling your mouse wheel forward to zoom out, scrolling it towards you to zoom in, out, and out, and out. And now you know how to move this. You can push your mouse button and you can grab and move it around. I think it's the same thing over here. And you right click in there to rotate it around, but you cannot rotate your 2D pattern. So you can use that to rotate the 3D window, but you can't rotate the 2D window. Sometimes some people have told me that when they started Marvelous Designer, the 2D patterns are not loaded in, so you have to just load them real quick. You can click on this gray bar and right click, and you'll see 2D pattern toolbar, and you're just going to check that, and then you get the 2D tools in. So how does Marvelous Designer work? Basically, you're going to use these polygon tools and so, and you're going to draw on a pattern here in your 2D window, and it's going to show up in a 3D window, and then you sew those together, and then you got clothes. If you have training in clothes or pattern making or so, you can just use real life patterns on this, and then you can make the exact same clothes you do in real life here in the 3D world. But if you don't have any pattern training, that's okay, because for the exception of some skirts and some dresses, all you have to do is draw the shape of the garment that you want, and you can just go on from there. You don't really need to have sewing training, because we're just going to build the basic stuff here, and then you would edit. If you want to do something more complex, you would just edit it in Blender. So this is just a prototyping kind of program. Or you can go all out in here. It just depends on how much time you plan on spending. I'm a prototyper kind of person. Anyway, so what we're going to do is tell you about the tools. So these are the tools you're going to be using the most. This is the polygon tool, and this allows you to create all kinds of funky shapes and stuff like that for making your pattern. They work on the connect the dot system, which means you have to you can make any pattern or anything, or use as many dots as you want, as long as you come back to the starting dot and close the pattern off. Next to that is the square, or create a rectangle, to let you easily create rectangle patterns all around here, so you don't have to use a polygon tool and try to create a rectangle. So you don't need to do that. Next to that one is the create a circle tool, which is let you create random circles if you want, circle patterns, without trying to use a polygon tool to create a circle. I can only imagine what kind of nightmare that is. So I'm just gonna clear this out here and talk about the next set of tools. Next to that tool, I'm just gonna create a rectangle here. are the internal tools. The internal tools allows you to draw internal geometry inside of your pattern. They are not like the polygon tool, because they can, they are not chained to the connect the dot rule that the regular polygon tools are. So for example, we can just click this and then let go, and we have internal lines. We don't have to connect them at all to the start and dot if you don't want to. So you may be wondering, what's the point of having internal geometry? Well, let's say this is the front of a dress or something like that, and you wanted to have a row of ruffles here and there and then right here. You can just create these internal lines and then sew your ruffles onto each line or something like that. Or they can work as elastic or a whole bunch of other things. They're very fun to play with, and I suggest that after you learn the basics in here, you come back in here and play with them. The internal square tool that was there, the internal rectangle, allows you to create internal rectangles, so that's good for when you're making like box pleats or something like that. And the internal circle tool, you're definitely going to need that if you're making skirts and something like that. It lets you create giant, quick internal circles. Now, one of the fun thing about internal tools is that you can actually create holes or custom holes and stuff with the internal tool. Let's, for example, I'm going to press the sync button, and this allows what we create here in the 2D window to sync up or show up inside the 3D window right here. And we're going to create an internal circle, and then I'm going to use this tool right here. This is the edit pattern tool. You're going to right click on that, and you could just push control to convert to hole, and you see you now have a hole inside your garment, which would be fun to play with later on. So the tool I just used was the edit pattern tool. It allows you to pretty much what it says, and that's to edit your pattern any way you want to, like edit points, edit lines, edges, and so on. The black one lets you grab patterns as a whole, so you can just grab this one, grab that one, or hold down shift and then grab both of them and move them along if you want to. Curves, well, I guess I can tell you about curves a little bit later. That's one of those you need to see in action kind of things to really describe it. It basically lets you convert your line into a curve, and then next to that is the edit the curve button, so you can choose how, like, refine your curve rather than, there you go, see, you can just refine your curve using that one. And this is the add point button, so you can just add more points onto here to grab and manipulate your pattern even further. So those are pretty much the basic tools for Marvelous Designer. Now we're going to talk about the 3D side. In order to do the 3D side, I guess I should show you, like, actually dive into the clothes making tutorial, because it's easier to show you rather than to go down and listen and explain it and you'll be like, what? And then we have to do it anyway. So we're going to kill two birds with one stone, and we're going to start. So in Marvelous Designer, I think I'm a firm believer that once you learn how to make a t-shirt and a pair of pants, you can make pretty much everything in anything else that you want in Marvelous. The concept is pretty much the same. You just draw the shapes, so the edges, and then pull out when you need to. You'll see what I mean by that. So let's start by making a t-shirt. We're going to select the polygon tool, and you're going to start here on the edge line, the fold line, or the center line as people will call it, but it's really the fold line. So this is the line that goes right down the middle of your avatar. Fold line. So I'm going to start right here in the chest, and we're going to start with how deep you want your shirt collar to be. So somewhere up here would be nice. And then you're going to click it and go right to the shoulder, and we're going to make the sleeve now. So you're going to take the sleeve and make it go as long as you want your sleeve to go. Since it's a t-shirt, it should be about right here or so. And then we're just going to say how loose you want your t-shirt to be, and then you're going to pull it right underneath the armpit, just touch almost before the boob hits. And then you're going to drag this line down and make it as long as you want your t-shirt to be. If you're having a hard time dragging it down, or you feel like you're making not so straight lines, you can hold the shift button and it creates a snap guide, so you can snap it to wherever you want it to go. So you can just hold down shift and then drag it down to how far you want your what's this thing called, how long you want your shirt to go. So just click it here, and then you can hold down shift again and then click it right to the fold line, and then go right back up to the starting point. There we go. So now we have half a t-shirt pattern. Now we're going to click the edit pattern tool, the little white arrow here, and we're going to click on this middle button that's right there and right click and then unfold. Now when we have our t-shirt pattern, we're going to go to the bottom part and delete this extra point that was created at the fold line. I just like getting rid of those. It makes it a lot easier in my opinion. So we're going to click on this pattern and we're going to copy, scroll over a little bit, and then paste. And this is going to serve as the back part of our pattern, the front of the shirt, back of the shirt. Now I don't really like it when the shirt dips down in the back like this, so you're going to want to click on this middle part point here and then just press delete, and you should have a front of your shirt and the back of your shirt. Now we're going to press the sync button, and it's going to show up over here, and we have our front and back patterns here in front and back patterns here in a 3D window. Now how the sync button works is, as long as it's on, whatever you do in the 2D window will reflect over in the 3D window. See how it's moving as I'm moving it? Now if you were to turn off the sync button, the pattern not only turns red, but it won't update over in the 3D window. So you see as I'm moving it here, it's still frozen over there. So if you find that you're manipulating it and it's not moving, then you probably don't have the sync button turned on. So make sure you turn your sync on when you're working. So now we have that changed. We're going to hang on one second. Sorry about that. It's kind of an emergency there. Alright, so where were we? We have the front part of a pattern, we have the back part of a pattern. And now if you're one of those people who need to have things labeled so you know where they are, I have a way to fix that for you so you know which one is which. I mean, right now it's pretty simple. We could tell which is the front and which is the back, but as your patterns and scales become more complex, you will have patterns all over the place, and it can be hard to tell which one is which. So what you want to do to name them is you want to select one of the patterns. Then you want to go into the basic tab that's right here, and you want to see where it says info. You're going to check the little plus and unwrap it, and then you're going to type on front, and then you're going to click on the back of the shirt, and then you're going to do the same thing, and then you're going to type in back, and that lets you name them. Now they won't show up until you click on the grid, right click on the grid, and then you select show pattern name or shift in, and then you'll be able to see front and back and be able to keep things in order. Now we're going to move over here to the 3D window. Let me zoom in just a little bit. And we're going to take the pattern for the back part of the shirt and put it behind the avatar. Now you want to remember that in Marvelous Designer 2, whenever you put a pattern behind the avatar, you have to flip it horizontally first. If you don't do that, then the back part of your garment will be invisible in Second Life. So say if you time in Heart 8, remember if it goes behind, it gets flipped, or flip it behind, or something like that. So I'm just going to right click on our back pattern and then choose flip horizontally, and you'll see it goes from white to black. That means the black is on the inside and the white is on the outside, and we're just going to move it behind our avatar. And we want to put it fairly close to the body, but not so close that it's going inside of it like that. So right here should be fine. So we're going to move this over, and we're going to line this up a little bit. Okay. So now we have these two parts here. We are going to start sewing, and these are the tools I wanted to talk to you about. There are 3 sewing tools here. We have the line editor, the segment sewing, and the free editor. All you're really going to use is the segment sewing and the line editor. I don't know how free sewing works. I never really used it. I just stick with segment sewing and the line editor because they're the fastest, at least as I know of. So what I'm going to do is grab the segment sewing, and you're going to click on the edge, just any edge for now. Let's work on the sleeves here. And you see it highlights, well in this case it highlights red, but it will highlight in various colors. You're going to click on that edge, and then you're going to drag the lines over to another edge. And when you click it, you'll see a bunch of lines show up. This is the sewing line, the threads that's going to bind these two together. So we're going to do it again on this side, and we're going to click on the edge, and we're going to sew it together. Now you see two different lines came up. This is wrong. Oh. Let me close that before it keeps popping up. Okay, sorry about that. But like I was saying, okay, so when you sew, there are two types of lines that come up: straight lines and crooked lines. You want to always make sure that your lines are straight, because this is how Marvelous Designer works. It says these lines tell Marvelous Designer take this edge and that edge and sew them together and hold them tight. When you have this right here that says this edge and that edge, and then pull them together and then twist at the middle. Now that may be good for certain projects, but for the most part you want to make sure that your lines are straight. Now if you find that you do have crooked lines, you have two options. One of them is that you can press Ctrl Z if you just did it, and you can just undo the lines and then resew it. But if you find that you already have lines that were way back there and you can't undo it, you just click the line editing tool, which is this one right here, and you click on your line, right click, and you say reverse seam line, and it'll straighten out your lines. So what we're going to do now is just sew all the way through and have fun doing it, making sure to keep the lines nice and straight. So this is what I mean whenever you hear me complain about using a new Marvelous Designers and I'm like, it doesn't have 3D sewing. This is what I meant. This is what they took out. So as soon as they put it back in there, I can start updating and doing more of these. Okay, so now that you have your garment all sewn together, you're going to start the simulation process and tell Marvelous Designer to bring them all together. So to do that, you just press this play button right here, and it simulates around it. So now you have a t-shirt. Now I'm going to show you how to make a pair of pants, because this process is pretty easy, just as easy as the shirt. So let's move the t-shirt part over here out of the way, and we're going to stop simulating and turn the play button off, and I'm going to scroll into the crotch. So you're going to start at how high you want the pants to be, so like right here around the natural waistline or belly button or so, and you're going to drag it down, hold down shift so it can go straight and go just below the crotch. Then you're going to make a slight right angle right here, and then you're going to go down to how long you want the pants to be. They can be as long or as short as you want it. So then once you get the leg down, you're just going to go straight up the leg, make a wide click right here by the hip, and then you're going to go up to the side, and then you're going to reconnect that, but reconnect here at the middle dot, the starting point. So you should have one pants like that. Once you have that done, you're just going to grab the edit pattern tool, right click on the middle, and then unfold. You're going to click on the middle dot here. And I'm going to zoom in and show you why I'm doing this. If I was to leave this behind, when you go to sew the middle part, the crotch, you would have to sew one part here and then another part here. So if we just click on this little point that's right there and then press delete and get rid of it, we only have to sew once instead of twice. So that's why I always say get rid of that if you have to. And I want to do the same thing for that top stitch up there, the top little dot. So we have one solid panel. So once we have our top parts of our pants done, I'm going to pull this up here and get these out of the way. T-shirts. So what you're going to do is right click on the pants and then click paste, and we have the back part of our pants. So what we're going to do now is the same thing we did with the t-shirt. You're going to right click, and then you're going to flip horizontally, and you're going to bring the pants behind your character. And you're going to make sure that it's close to the body but not going into the butt, because if you can see cheeks, then it's too far. So pull it out and make it there, because if we leave it inside here and it starts to sew, it's going to bring together and then you'll have this exposed, and that's no good. So we want our cheeks inside our pants, so put it back there, and you're going to do the same thing with the front and pull it close to the body. Okay, now just like we did with the t-shirt, you're going to go with your segment sewing, and you're just going to sew the edges together. Here too, and through there, And I guess that's everywhere that we want to sew. There's a line through there, right? Yeah, there's a crotch line already. So once everything is nice and sewed, we can press play. And you see it sews, and you have a pair of pants. Well, this is more or less their leggings, but they can still serve as pants. Now, if you see your skin poking out, you can just grab it with the edit pattern tool on the 2D side and pull it out like so, and that usually covers it up. But we can fix it in Blender, so don't make a big fuss about it. So just so you can see everything clearly, I'm going to click on these two patterns and give them a material. And you do that by clicking on the pattern you want. So let's click these two pairs of pants. And we're going to click on fabric, then color. And we're just going to assign them a color. Let's make these black. And that can also help you when you can see if something's poking out. So, alright, now as you see, the pants are on top of the clothes, like on top of the t-shirt, and I guess that's fine if you want to make your shirt tucked into your pants, but in this case I want to make the shirt on the outside of the pants. So what you do to make the shirt appear on top is you click on the front panel and the back panel, and you go to, I think it's here in the fabric tab, and you scroll all the way down until you see it says layer, and you're going to move it up to 1 or 2. So I like 2, just to be safe. And you see the clothes come out on top. So now you have your shirt and your pants layered on the same project file. If you ever want to do more clothes on top of it, you just have to remember that the highest number is always on top and the lowest one is always on the bottom. So like in this case, the pants are on the 0 layer, so they're underneath the shirt, which is on the 2nd layer. So you just add layers and keep layering until you get the garment that you want. So I like the way that this is now. So and that's pretty much all we can really do right now for this part, this basic tutorial. I'm going to export this. We're going to save it, and then we're going to export it. Oh yeah, so I bet you're wondering, like, alright, what about the UV maps and stuff I need for texturing? Well, the fun thing about that is the patterns that you created here in a 2D window is your UV mapping. So this is the front and back for the t-shirt, and these are the UV mappings for the what's it called, the pants. So you don't have to worry about unwrapping this or anything when you get into Blender, unless you really want to rechange the stuff, then you'll have to. But if you just want it fast and quick, this is it, and you don't have to change it. So let's save our project so we can come back to it later, or if you want, you can give it to friends or sell these or whatever. So what you do is you go save as, and then you go project, and then you can save, where is it? 2.0. And you can save this as yoga clothes. And that's it. That saves it so that you can give it to people, other people who use Marvelous Designer, and it'll have the avatar and the garment and all that stuff already done in there. They can just go in and start modifying it. Or you can open it and modify and keep going. Now, if you want to export their clothes so you can use them in Blender, we're going to have to do something different. What we do is you go File, Export, OBJ, and you're going to navigate to your project folder, and you're going to name this Yoga Clothes. And you're going to press the M key button down here. Then you're going to press Unified UV Coordinates, remove collapsed triangles, and you want to make sure that in this window only cloth shape is selected, because cloth shape is your clothes. Everything else is just avatar or whatever else. So you just want to make sure cloth shape is there, and that's what's checked. And then once all of it looks like this, you're going to press OK, and it's going to export it out. So that's it for Marvelous Designer. All we have to do now is take these clothes and rig them to the skeleton, texture them, and then bring them in the second language. So I'll see you back in Blender.